All right. My name is Steve, and I think today I'm going to try a little pixel art piece of the Earth. I'm using SpritePixels for iOS, iPad, and iPhone, which is my very own pixel art creation tool. And I think we're going to start with a dark black background because this thing is going to be set in space. And I think we will keep the default tile size, but we'll go with 6x6 tiles. I think I want to fit the Earth in this 16 tile square in the middle, and I'll kind of have a margin around that. I'm going to want some blues and some greens, obviously, but I think I'll leave the top row as it is because I'm going to want some stars too. Maybe some darker stars, medium stars, and light stars. Maybe a little bit more blue there. So let's add a row. And let's make this, let's get some blues. Let's add a row. And let's get some greens. Okay, so we need a circle. And maybe we'll refine those colors later. So what I want is a quarter circle curve. Let's see about that. I remember growing up, I would look at the numbers of pixels exactly. That's actually is that perfectly symmetrical already in one stroke? I think it might be, honestly. And it's pretty continuous looking. I think I'm just going to see how that works. So in SpritePixels, you can pick up a region, just move it around, and you can rotate it. So we'll do that. And we'll just stick it down here. Oops. Let's be in pixel mode and just tap and hold to fill. Okay, this is looking fine. Let's make this darker, the darkest blue color, a little bit grayer by raising the other values. And yeah, there's not going to be too much variance among the blues. And for greens, let's make that pretty. That's already pretty neutral. Let's go. Yeah, a little bit browner and yellower. That's actually pretty good like that. Okay, let's start on the kind of the section of the Earth I want to do is this sort of view that has Africa at the bottom left and Asia at the upper right. So I think we'll try getting the shapes down there. Africa has a bit of a spike at the right from the tectonic plate. This is not super precise shape-wise, but we're going to refine it as we go along. I think the ocean needs to be a bit darker still, actually. That looks a little better. But actually, even the darkest land, because we're going to assume the sun is shining on what we can see, I don't think we'll do a shadow. So it needs to be brighter. A little lusher. That's a little more like what I'm looking for. You know, I was wondering what to use as a reference photo for this, and my first thought was let's use the Discover satellite, which is, I think, at the Lagrange point, taking daily photos of the Earth. But the Earth, the real Earth, when seen from space, turns out it has a lot of clouds around it at all times, and it's actually hard to see the shapes of the landforms. Okay, there we go. Let's get rid of Madagascar for the moment. Now this is a little bit more of a protrusion here and a little bit more massive down here. And there's a bit of a connecting landform at the upper right. But we'll come back to that. We need something more like that. And then we have a little bit of Europe, almost making contact there. And we have Italy coming down there. And maybe we'll do a little dithering on this later because the definition's looking a little bit silly already. We've got Norway up here. That whole protrusion. And we've got one of the seas right here. A little more ocean water in there. And then, oops, don't want to fill that. Let's go up here. We do want to fill something that looks a little more like this. And now let's put Madagascar back in. It's a little big for Madagascar, but, you know, maybe it's an indication. And England is just not. It's going to be almost off the top there. Still needs a little more refinement there. Didn't realize this would be so much detail work. Okay. So, anyone who lives in any of these places is probably like, the details. I don't know. I'm only so aware of the landforms around where I live, which is not on this side of the world. Okay, so we have the sea up here. I'm going to say that's the Black Sea. Am I right? And then there's another. Yeah, it's a little more up here. And over to the right, just directly above this intrusion, there is another thinner, sort of taller sea there. And I couldn't even guess the name of that one. But let's keep going. Let's see. We're going to lighten the edges here. So I didn't use an image from the Discover satellite because of all the clouds. In fact, I just ended up opening Apple Maps, which now has a nice globe view when you zoom out all the way, kind of like Google Maps. Now, the lightest blue color we're going to need is not nearly that light, so let's bring that down quite a bit. And let's create kind of a gradient. Then we can play with that. A little brighter. Good. Yeah, so we're going to pretend that the sun... No, the sun isn't behind the Earth, because we're going to say it's shining on the Earth, but we're going to have a little bit of a halo effect, I think. Because I like that on the reference image. And that's going to blur into the land a bit too, so let's add that around the edge of the land. And then toward the equator, and a little bit north in this case, I think we're going to have some lighter land, because that happens all the way around the Earth. A little bit less vegetation. And it's going to continue around this way. It's going to kind of ease off. How's that look? It looks pretty blocky at the moment. You know, even as the author of a pixel art app, I'm not the world's best pixel art creator. I'm largely just playing around. But I find it is a lot of fun. It can be very relaxing. And I do intend to do a game or two at some point. And that's part of the reason I wanted to have an app that worked the way I liked it. I find pixel art apps have a lot of, even on the iPad, they have a lot of tools, you know, just like Photoshop, the whole toolbox there. That color is a bit loud. Let's let's bring up the blue. There we go. Think of a bit of a coast there, the beachy kind of coast. And SpritePixels doesn't really have tools. It just has point and press, and you can pick things up and rotate them as you saw. I can select any region and do that kind of thing. Let's put it back. And if you want to paint, you know, you can paint and drag, but on the iPad you can just use 3, 4, 5 fingers and just get a lot done all at once if you know what you're envisioning. Here it's all been pretty specific. So as we move away from the desert, we'll dither a little bit. And then up here, yeah. And there's a little bit of water around here in Africa. Okay, how are we looking? I don't think the bottom here should bow in so much. Let's try shifting this a little bit. And then we'll cover that up with water. Maybe expand this down a bit. That's a start, okay. And then we can represent shallower or deeper areas of water. I love it how you can kind of see if the water level of the whole Earth were lower, you could see where new islands would come up because they're shallow water. You can see maybe where under Earth volcanoes kind of churn up rock and contribute to the shape of the land. Not a geologist either, but I think that kind of thing is really cool. How do I keep making this see the wrong shape? There we go. And then maybe we can complement this halo with a little bit. Oh, this is going to be darker, isn't it? And more saturated. Yeah. You know, pretty simple stuff, but sometimes by just playing around with, like, almost like you can imagine you have a little paintbrush that you can daub, and it scatters a little bit. And again, SpritePixels, like, let's say I want to just do this area a little bit, I can just put down a few fingers a few times and it's done. Look at that, undo my way back through it. Okay, there we go. Let's zoom out. That's not bad. What would I still tweak? And this looks a little bit too far northeast. Yeah. Maybe adjust this green a little bit. You can adjust all the pixels, of course, that have that color. And so if I wanted to, I could just try, well, say, what if I want brown land instead of green land? We can pick a brown preset. And just like that, you get something different, like a wasted earth. But I'm going to undo that. And we could try a different colored ocean and so on. Anyway, so that's actually looking like just what I was going to try out. Let's add a few stars. So if I was really with it, I could start using actual constellations and so on. But I think today we'll just go a little bit random. A little bit darker for the secondary stars. You know, most of the stars are pretty dim, and there are actually just a few bright ones when you're looking up. So maybe for the second darkest color, we'll go even darker. Yeah. And we'll have more of those. We can even have little clusters, or maybe we can pretend that the Milky Way is going maybe from upper left to bottom right. Yeah, so we can really brush stroke those on a little more. There. And then a few more stray stars. Maybe not so many white ones, actually. And then bing, bing, bing. Yeah. Well, maybe not completely done, but it's a pretty good start, and that is a very quick attempt at the Earth against Starscape in SpritePixels. Thanks for watching. I'm Steve, and SpritePixels is available on the App Store.